Hi friends, strangers, internet. My name is Emily. I love colorful makeup and colorful language, and I also love using my entire face as a canvas. This has been something that I have been doing a lot in the last 6 months or so, and I decided that this was a good time to do a graphic liner kind of ask me anything Q&A. A while back, I asked my audience on my YouTube community tab and in my Patreon to give me any questions they had about graphic liner. So what I did with those questions is that I went through all of them in a Patreon only live stream. And if you are watching this and you're a patron or a channel member, that link is always going to be available for you. Even if you join my Patreon or membership after this video goes up, that link should be available to you. That goes through everything, and anybody that was there could ask questions as well. But I have edited that down to this video, so I hope you enjoy this. This is the first time I've ever done this format of video, but I thought it was a fun way to be able to really get some interaction, but also give everyone a chance to ask questions. If you like colorful makeup, if you like bitches with lots of opinions, or you just like cute fat babes, I hope you will subscribe, and we're gonna jump into this editorial makeup graphic liner Q&A. Basically, I was literally always like, graphic liner is overrated. I can't do that. I have astigmatism, so my vision is not good. It's a really strong astigmatism in both eyes. Everything is blurry without glasses. So it was literally for so long like fuck this Euphoria trend. I don't care. Leave me alone. And then I started, I shaved off my brows. This was probably a year ago, the first time it was a year ago because I was still in Playa del Carmen. So it was about a year ago when I did that, but I wasn't really doing graphic liner then. Back in November, I had picked up, this is so loved, the Mirror Beauty water activated liner palette. This is the line is the Holy Grail line, and this one is the neon one. And I had picked this up because I really love Mira, and I felt like this was finally like a little palette that had all the colors, or a lot of the colors that I wanted. In terms of like my favorite liners for graphic liner, I mean, here's the reality. So with water activated liners, they're more or less private label manufactured across the board. So if you see your favorite indie brand release one and it's priced right for you, you're probably going to have decent luck with it. I ended up picking up the artist palette from Glisten. Glisten is very well known for their liners, but they're priced a little higher. They're based out of the UK, so I think for the UK they're very affordable. This palette was very affordable for what considering I was gonna get all of these anyway. I tend to go for the palettes over the individual pots because I just don't like having a bunch of little pots around. But I do have black and white. I did pick up black and white. So here's the thing with graphic liner. Water activated liner is the most popular and I'm going to say most affordable way to get into it without buying a bunch of individual things. Some people will use things like, so this is a Danessa Myricks Color Fix. So I have a couple. I would say if you already have like the matte Color Fix in your life, you can play around with those. I talked to my friend who has used the About Face matte eye paints and the Half Magic matte eye paints, and they recommend the About Face. They are the most
they've used them as bases, like as a matte eyeshadow base, but also like to do dotted graphic work and liner graphic work. If you have like loose pigments or even your regular eyeshadow, you can mix that with like duraline and apply it. So water activated liners, how they work. They are like a solid cake. So I can touch in here and nothing is coming up. And so you have to get your brush wet and then you activate the paint with water and then you can apply it. The problem with that is that they're not going to be incredibly long lasting, because water will also deactivate them or reactivate them on your face. So if it's really hot out, I'm a very sweaty person, so if it was really hot out, I'm not gonna wear water activated liners out really, because they're dry. They basically last forever. It's not like buying a pot or a tube of a liquid shadow. These will basically last forever, as long as you're not like, the thing I do also is that I just keep the palette open after I'm done using it, because I don't want humidity to like build up in there. Let's jump to like the long wearing question. Can you use duraline with water activated liners, or does it mess them up? So what you can do is, once you apply your graphic liner, you literally take the smallest amount. I really feel like this dropper like lets out too much, but you take the smallest amount and you grab another brush and you just paint it over the water activated liner that you did. When I tested that, I felt like it did help, but I'm not gonna say that if you're caught out in a rainstorm that you're gonna like, be secure. Leanne asked, for people with very oily or dry skin, what other skin makeup prep can be done to help the liner stay in place as long as possible? So I did 4 different tests. I put down the Fahrenheit Pixie Epoxy, which is my absolute favorite shimmer glitter glue. I put down my matte eye primer. I use the NARS Smudge Proof, but I'm not like diehard stuck on that one. I put down the primer and I let it dry as much as I could, and then I applied the water activated liner. I also did the duraline test, where I did the water activated liner and then I painted the duraline on top. I did a 4th experiment where I made water activated liner with my Scandinavia setting spray. I went in and I sprayed my hand with water, and then I also washed the hand. I found that the liner that I had put down on top of my eyeshadow primer stuck the best, and then the second best was the Duraline painted eyeliner. So I would say, if you are considering doing some graphic liner or some fun face stuff, and it's near your eyes, even if you don't plan on putting on eyeshadow, I might consider priming your eyes anyway, and then putting the water activated liner on top. The test that I did, where I used the Scandinavia setting spray into the liner, it didn't do anything. So I wouldn't do that. And then in terms of them lasting all day, it really depends on your skin chemistry and where you're putting it and what else might touch it. Where my glasses hit my face, which is often where my brows are, it's going to like rub off or wear off over a long period of time. But if it's like on parts of your eyes or your face where you're not like necessarily getting that repeated like exposure, then I think that they have a pretty solid wear time. Having a couple of paints, for me, I bought 3 at one time because I'm a clown, but having a paint or 2 in colors that you are like, you know what, I would like this as a matte shadow and I would also like this as a liner, I think that's a nice way to start out. It can be a lower price point investment, especially if you're somebody with really oily skin or you're very concerned about the wear. Okay, Duraline. Duraline is just this very little like container. It's sold by Inglot. So this is a mixing medium. I know Mehron has them. A bunch of different brands have them. I can't qualify to any of the other brands, but Duraline in terms of my experience has always been for extending the life, making something waterproof. You literally, I think what you could actually do, I was being all awkward with dropper, is if you have a clean brush, just literally dip it. That would be way easier. Just dip, wipe off. Yeah, that's way easier. Just paint over. Oh my God, that's so much easier. There we go. We learned together. These two were the Duraline lines. So you can see with a lot of water, they all kind of reactivate to some degree. I think it still runs, but I don't know if you can, like, it leaves behind. It's more likely to stick in some capacity. So if you really got like in a rainstorm, I feel like the Duraline would help. So Angie had asked, what would be the best formula to do a graphic eye look for a beginner? My grands want me to do a butterfly look for Halloween, and I'm not sure if I could pull it off. First of all, everyone can pull off everything. It's all about attitude and like having fun. If you are curious about playing in makeup, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, face paints. Are they great formula? Do they do the job? They can. So I didn't realize, or I didn't pay attention when I bought this. This came with a bunch of stencils. I haven't used any of these because they're probably just one-time use, but I need to remember. And one of the things they came with was a butterfly wing stencil. So Kiara tried face paints, but they did not show up on darker skin. Thank you for saying that. So noted. I would say that face paints like the Mehron body paints or some of the more like professional makeup artist face paints are also an option, but that is a good thing to know. You could consider getting stencils. Even if you don't want to get the face paints, you could definitely get stencils to give you the shape. Actually, speaking of that, if you have nicely pigmented eyeshadows, you could use this stencil to create butterfly wings without the face paints. This is the thing with graphic makeup, artistic makeup. You don't have to necessarily do liner to have fun. Don't be afraid to like look around your makeup collection or your house to find things to like stamp on your face. Like anytime you see me doing circles, that's because I have, I don't know, grabbed the lid of something and painted the edge. You never know, like you may have a lot in your space, because I feel like a lot of makeup people are also crafty people. I'm not great at crafts. I want to be, but makeup is kind of my crafty space. So definitely think about makeup beyond just the makeup. I've also seen people use cookie cutters to stamp on their face. So like if you had little flower cookie cutters, I feel like that would be cute. And I didn't kind of talk about tools. So because I had a question from Admonica about what tools do you use to do dots? Actually, for dots and for brushes, you can look for nail art sets, because nail art brushes are often where you're gonna find the really thin brushes. And then if you see a tool like this, and you will often see sets where there are multiples of these, where each ends are like different sizes, these are nail art dotting tools. Nail art is kind of where it's at. You can definitely find like all of the different liner brands like Glisten, Gavisi, by Melolops. A bunch of them do sell brushes, and I would say that you're not going to go wrong picking up those brushes, but you also don't have to buy from a liner brand. This brush is one of my favorite winged liner brushes, and you see how tiny it is. So this is a Royal and Langnickel brush, but it's from Michaels. It's not one of their makeup brushes. It's one of their art supply brushes. So that's the thing, is that like you can look at nail art sets, you can look at art sets, like detailer brushes. I also have brushes like this. This was from Coastal Scents, but I have a similar shape from Shop Missy. I'm pretty sure I used this rounded shape to make the clouds when I did my cloud look. So you will be surprised at what kind of shapes might be really amazing. This is another one from the KJ Hughes set, but this is a really fucking cool brush shape, and it's been really fun to play with graphic liner looks. So the thing that I had to learn with doing dots, first of all, one of the things I had to learn with, and this kind of will go into the next section, but you have to be a little afraid of the water, but also don't be afraid of the water to really get in there. I tend to use a bigger brush to really get the paint activated, and I may not use this to actually apply. But when I first started doing this, I really just wanted to be able to dip into the activated pan and like put dots on, do this, and hope that like it would work. But it just, that one looked good because of course it would look good on camera. Like it looks great. But what I have found is better for me is to paint the actual like dotting tool. I have some nice looking dots right there. There we go. So that row right there is from painting them on. And because they're water activated paints, these things are very easy to clean. And that doesn't look super clean, but these big dots over here are from the brush that I just used. We have some questions that all kind of fit into this, like, I said water applying. So Amy says, every time I use my water activated liners, they crack and flake off in spots. Do you have any tips that'll help with that? In terms of the water application, as I just mentioned, I find that when I first started doing this, I was much more nervous and I didn't want to wet the thing. I didn't want to like oversaturate it. And that is a concern. But the thing that I have found is that not using enough water makes a very thick product. Even just letting my brush sit for a while from, when I just showed it to you, you can see, I feel like you can see the difference. Whereas like when this is freshly filled up, this brush would make a much thicker line. I find that when the liners are too thick, that is one way that they are going to be more difficult to work with because they don't want to flow. I find they tend to skip more when it's too thick. And I also feel like you might have more issues with cracking and flaking when it's so thick, when it's less fluid. It is a bit of a learning curve, and every time I do it, I have to adjust, because if you do make it too thin, it will go too sheer. It will, then be less impactful. It might trickle down. Like if it's super, super fluid like this, that's going to be dangerous because, you might end up with something that is more of a mess. If you get to a point where you have oversaturated your paint and you're trying to back out, what I will do is just dry off my brush. Like maybe I will clean it off completely, dry it off, and just pick up some of the liner that's in the pan. And sometimes I can use that, but sometimes I just need to pick it up and discard it. And then I go back into the pan without having done anything else. So like pick up the excess paint, just discard it. My brush is still wet. I just go back into the liner pan and then it might be perfect. My kind of assumption based on my own personal experience is that when you're first working with water activated liners, you're so scared to take it too far. But these things can take a beating. Like, will you go through the product faster if you are putting in too much water and then having to take out product? Yes, you will. So I feel like if you're getting flaking and cracking, I think your liners need to be more fluid. The other thing, and this is a tip that I picked up from Glam Geo, is her account on Instagram, but Giovanna, she also creates on YouTube. She has a really good tip of, if you're trying to smooth out your look, don't go in with more liner, just wet your brush. And I would say there's a lot of times where I'm wetting my brush, but still like dabbing it off. But wet your brush and then go back over the line that you're either trying to smooth or extend, because you probably already have a fair amount of product on your eye. And by going in with that wet brush, it's just gonna kind of like pick up and spread. So in that lavender line, you can see how it like attached to my skin texture. So I started doing it and then I was like, wait, let me show you the before. So I just had the wet brush and I'm going back over it. And this is that idea of like, if you want to smooth it out. And it got a little lighter because I think it's mainly because it's wet. But I hope you can see the difference in the way that like versus the last time when it was grabbing the skin texture. Now it's just kind of like, it's still showing texture, but it's not as apparent. Now, it's not a foolproof technique. Sometimes you can pick up and create a gap. And if that happens, then what I would do is wait, let that liner dry and like so that it's not wet still, and then go in with some more liner and like fill in your gap. So in terms of applying water to the palette, sometimes I will use water that is in a spray bottle and spray the pan. But I have realized more lately that I really prefer to get a brush wet and then just go into the pan and work it in, because even when I spray the pan with water, I usually still want to wet my brush. And so I just feel like this is like, it's easier. And I really feel like loading in your brush and really like working the water into the liner is helpful for getting that pigment and really having like a nice product to work with. And again, I tend to use a bigger brush that I'm not necessarily going to use for application to do that mix. But you can keep a spray bottle of water and just do that.
A quick lil demo for y'all.
Actually, I hope that showed that like when your liner is more fluid, it really is easier to do this kind of stuff. This is also another thing to mention. Water activated liner is activated by water. So they really are never going to work in your waterline. Definitely something to keep in mind, because I think a lot of people see all the water activated liners and they're like, ooh, waterline colors, but no. Lower lash line, yes, but not waterline. So there were some questions that I kind of grouped as like doing looks. Janet had asked, will shadows stick easily to water activated liner if you're trying to embellish the color? I tend to recommend applying your liner, or not your liner, applying your eyeshadow first and then doing graphic liner, just because I feel like Actually, it's just the way I do it. And I do also usually want matte graphic liner to pop. I don't use water activated liners as like bases. I just don't tend to like the way they feel on my eyes, especially because of the way my hooded eyes are. They actually get like sticky in there. It's not fun. I wouldn't necessarily like lay down my graphic liner and then blend a bunch of colors on top of it, but they do like, you can definitely go in with shimmers, with multi-chromes, with duochromes. So I went in with Strawberry Moon from Danessa Myricks, and you can see it does attach and it does embellish. You can definitely like put shadows over it, and this is just me applying with my fingers, so you can embellish afterwards. There was a question about how do you pick color combination for editorial looks. I'm gonna be honest, it's sometimes it's random, sometimes it's inspiration. Not often, but I do have inspiration photos. I do bookmark things on Instagram, and oftentimes what happens is like what I end up with, it's never a direct copy because my face and my style and my color preferences are not the same as anyone else's. So I try to tag people if I've been inspired by them so that hopefully you can find the photo references like on Instagram. But a lot of times it's, finding inspiration. Sometimes it's prompts, like somebody that I follow on Instagram and I've gotten friendly with. Their name is s.andromeda on Instagram. They do these prompts where they will share an image and invite people to do a look inspired by it. And Leanne has a great tip for people who want to use color palettes. You can use online color pickers for home decoration where they'll choose color palettes. You can also like Google, like you can just search green color palette or tropical color palette and just like find colors grouped together. I honestly love the color wheel and thinking about colors that way. Like if you are somebody where you're like, I know I love green because I love green. I know I love green. I know it's a color that I love on my face. And I'm like, I can play in that color, but I want to expand like in that space. But I still want to feel safe. Like analogous color stories are where it's fucking at. When I say analogous, I mean the colors that are like next to each other. Usually I think of it as like one color on each side, but you can also use the color wheel to be, so like sometimes, speaking of picking colors, sometimes I have done a purple look and I'm like, this is fabulous, but like I want it to be, to have a little bit more pop, a little more contrast. Well, there's also I know some of y'all might know this, so I'm sorry that I'm nerding out. Actually, I'm not sorry that I'm nerding out. But across the color wheel are complementary colors. So technically they're colors that like pop, make each other pop. And it's not that I'm looking at a color wheel and making a decision. It's just the stuff that lives in my brain. I love monochromatic looks, but sometimes they're visually less interesting. As you're getting more playful, if you really are just like, I just want like one place to go look for color inspiration, honestly, the color wheel. Like it's hard not to. And there's lots of diagrams out there that like show these different color stories. So anyway, when I'm like, how do you pick colors? It's as easy and as complicated as sometimes just thinking about the color wheel. Denisha had asked the question, how do you create for fake symmetry when your face isn't? Wing liner that makes my eyes look similar without each wing being obviously different is already a headache. No one's face is symmetrical. And I hope this is helpful. It might not be. But for me, accepting that and just making each side of my face look good is where it's at. Because the reality is that we often are applying makeup way up close. But very few people are that close. very few people are getting that close to your face. And I feel like we notice the asymmetry a lot more than everyone else. So sometimes when I'm really playing in the graphic liner world, it's about making each eye different. Like purposefully making each eye different. Maybe the eyeshadow is the same, but the graphic liner is different. You're tricking yourself and you're tricking other people because it's different. Kara said, I also had to navigate around my eye folds and they are different for both eyes. Exactly. Audra has talked about this quite a bit. When they do wings, like each eye shape is different, the folds are different. So I really feel like your best bet is just to be like, okay, I did this side looks good. Let's just do our best. And we're not matching, but like, you know, if you know you did a shape like this here, it goes up, it goes down, and then it goes up again out. You're just gonna do the same thing over here, but like it's gonna be different. I feel like this is not helpful, but this is the reality. Like you just have to kind of follow and like not match exactly. I feel like you have to understand that like everyone's face is asymmetric, and when you are looking at other people and being like, they match their setup so well, I am so unskilled and blah. No, you are looking at them and you are giving them that credit. Your eyes are making up for the differences, and you're not giving yourself that same credit. And I will live and die by that. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through some gem conversation just because I had a question. So there are things like gems that you can get on pre-sticky, like pre-stuck onto sheets, which I think can be a helpful way to start, but I actually find they're kind of annoying to get off the sheet personally. You can also get them loose. You usually can't buy just a few. Like the first set that I bought, it was 5 of these, and then I picked up these, which are really like, I would consider them more like glitter. The main things I would say, don't spend a lot of money on gems. I swear to God, don't spend a lot of money on gems. Like buy them from the budget brands or from Michael's or from Amazon, or like a bulk. Like I know it feels silly maybe to get this many gems, but like I don't feel like that they're an investment thing. These were nail art gems, so again, like with the tools, you're gonna look really for nail art. If you're really considering playing with them, you can find these sometimes with the kits. They call them wax pencils. Having a wax pencil to pick up the gem is so much easier. Sometimes they are sold and they look like an actual pencil, like just a white pencil. I have one of those. I should have grabbed it, but it's not very sticky. Like it works kind of, but it's not my favorite. But like you can definitely use tweezers to pick them up. But this is so much easier to me. You want to pick it up from the stone front so that the back is the part that is sticking out. And then I don't have glue on, so it's not gonna stick. But then you just literally press it on and it'll stick. And so that is how I like, if you're gonna buy loose gems, I would totally buy this. Something else you will need though, if you buy the loose gems, as Kiara mentioned, is eyelash glue. It's basically what you need. So I had originally bought the Kiss glue liner in black back when I was going to try to use this for eyelashes, but I recently bought the clear one, and it's literally just a felt tip pen and it has glue in it. So like, let's say I was going to aim for my freckle, just so I know what's there. You just press it down. It's not going to look like anything, but it's actually there. And then I literally just grabbed it. And then we have a little gem. And it sticks. And like these have been on for a couple hours at least. This is actually really good for loose glitter too. A lot of times when I'm dealing with glitter or gems, I really just want a couple of pieces that I'm going to put in specific spots. So this is one from Drench that I have that has these like bigger like octagons, and you see how it's just stuck right to the end of the pin. But then if I had the glitter glue down, then I could just, you know, stick it on if I wanted it on my inner corner or wherever I wanted it. I find that having this makes life a lot easier because especially when I'm working with glitter and with gems, I don't want, but glitter especially, I don't want any chance of it falling in my eyes. And I feel like when I'm using a brush or using something else that like I can tend to have more fall out, fall down, whatever. I think that's all I had for gems, and I think that's kind of all I had in general.
So, what did you think? Did you like this format? And if you're watching and you have any additional questions, comments, clarifications you would like, to throw out based on this video, go for it. And it doesn't have to be something I specifically talked about in this video. You can ask me other questions because maybe I'll make part 2 of this video sometime in the future. And if I have any relevant links, products, anything like that, I'm gonna have them in the description box, so definitely use that as a resource. But if I missed anything, again, ask me. If you are interested in joining my Patreon after seeing this video, that will also be linked in the description box, and I would love to have you over there. Thank you so much to my patrons and my members for your support. You are so appreciated. And most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourself better today than you did yesterday, because you are worth it. Bye, friends.